Hey guys, how you doing today? This is David Lucas back here again. Welcome back to my channel. And now I'm back at you again, guys, to give you another video, another review on the next movie on their list of the Batman reviews, guys. Yes, we're getting up there. We have to start doing the Batman reviews because we're literally a month away now from the actual movie coming out. And the next movie on the list is none other than Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Yes, guys, Tim Burton's Batman Returns is the sequel to Batman 1989. And if you guys want to know my thoughts on Batman 1989, you can go check out my video. I'm right on my channel of Batman 1989 that I just did a review of. Go check that out. But Batman Returns is a movie that, again, just like Batman 1989, I remember as a kid growing up watching all the time. This one I did actually remember watching the least, because I remember as a kid I always got afraid at one scene, at the scene where the penguin eats the one dude's nose or bites a dude's nose. For some reason, that scene always scared me as a little scene. Out of all the movies, all the horror movies I watch, all the other kind of movies, for some reason, that scene always freaked me out the most. I don't know why. For that reason, I remember as a kid, I would always watch this movie the least out of all the Batman movies for some reason. And because of the success of Batman 1989, the studio pretty much gave Tim Burton a full free range to basically make the movie that he wanted to make. He can do whatever he wanted with the movie pretty much, because in the very first one, he did have a lot of studio interference in the very beginning, but since it was so good, they just gave him all the free range for this one, so you definitely feel it in this one. If you are new to this channel, I pretty much, the way how I do my reviews is I start out with the good into the movies, and then I go on to the bad in movies, because this movie does have a lot of good and bad to it. I have a lot of mixed thoughts on this movie, I will say. I have a lot of mixed thoughts on this movie, more so than what I had in the past, because in the past, I'll admit, I didn't like this movie as much in the past. But this time around is a little bit different. So let's get on to my thoughts about this movie, because I do have a lot of thoughts. And of course, we start out with the good, so let's start out with the good, guys. Right off the bat, something I really loved of this movie is the whole set design and just the whole production design, everything about this movie. I just love the design of it. I love how it looks. I love how the characters look. I love how the characters sound. I love just the overall gothic type of tone and feel. It just feels very dark and Christmassy, and it does give off a very Gotham-like feel with that Christmassy and gothic type of mixer feel with the whole set design. I just really love that a lot. The goal with the whole set design, the cinematography is just so good in this. It is so great. I love the cinematography. I do really like the score in this movie. I think the overall score and tone, just like Batman 1989, is very good with Danny Elfman. He does a tremendous job, I feel like. Definitely one of my favorite Batman tones in the whole Batman theme. I think, as of right now at least, is my favorite Batman theme, but I think that is gonna change with the Batman, especially since I just listened to the Batman theme, and yeah, I will say this is maybe now my second. Yeah, this one right here is maybe my second favorite Batman theme. The Danny Elfman, Tim Burton Batman theme in here is definitely my second favorite. Something I don't hear this movie get enough praise for is just the way how it's able to have like 3 villains pretty much in here, because it has the Penguin, Catwoman, and Max Shreck in here. And even though Max Shreck's not a comic book villain at all, but he is still a villain in here, and I just like the way how they're able to balance the 3 villains and make them all kind of coincide and kind of work together in here. I feel like they do a really good job, and I feel like I don't really hear that mentioned a lot, how they're able to have 3 villains in here and make it all fit and kind of work really well. And they do it really well in here, and I gotta say, I really like how they do it. And again, I gotta say, I really like Michael Keaton as Batman in here. I think Michael Keaton as Batman, at least, is really good and done really well. I just love his Batman. Every time I see Michael Keaton, I'm like, oh, that's an awesome Batman. Like, I just love his version of Batman. I love how he looks in the Batman costume. I just love how creepy and kind of crazy how he seems. And in this, he really does fight really well, too. Like, I've noticed in this one, he's a lot more brutal than he was in 1989, and that's one that I gotta give it to, that I really like how much more brutal Michael Keaton's Batman is in here, and much more darker he is in here, because he pretty much kills some people in here, and it's not really talked about as much, but he kills some people in here, definitely does, but he is dark and brutal in here, and I think that this is probably one of the best versions of him as Batman in here. And the Batsuit too, I really like the Batsuit. They do have a little bit of an update on the Batsuit from the first one. It's not exactly the same. They like change a little bit like in the chest plate, I'm pretty sure, and they change the symbol a little bit. And I like the Batsuit in here. I like how it looks. Again, I like how Michael Keaton looks in the Batsuit. And I'm a fan of the darker Batsuit, of this version of the darker Batsuit. I like how they went that route in this one. But I feel like after this, they should have went more, you know, gray and black. But that's a story for when we go later on in the reviews. Now, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and Selina Kyle, I gotta say, as of right now at least, because we're gonna be getting Zoe Kravitz in the Batman, and we're gonna see how she is in there. But as of right now, Michelle Pfeiffer is definitely my favorite Selina Kyle and Catwoman. Now, I'm going to get into my kind of criticisms of the Catwoman in here, because I do have my criticisms of Catwoman, the story they have behind her in here. But Michelle Pfeiffer as a performance and the way how she embodies the role as Catwoman and Selina Kyle is just perfect. The way she looks, the way she talks, the way she moves, just the dialogue that she has with Batman together, the chemistry that Michael Keaton and Michelle Pfeiffer have together as on screen as Batman and Catwoman. Even when they're Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle, they have a great chemistry together. I just love Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Like, she is literally the perfect Catwoman, and her look, the way how her suit looks and everything, it's just, she is, at this moment in time at least, the perfect live-action Catwoman. I gotta say, too, the final act of this movie, just like the final act of 1989, is really good. I really like the final act in this. I like the conclusion at the end of this, where we leave off, and then at the very, very ending of how it leaves off, with Catwoman kind of her teasing that Catwoman is still out there, and have the bat symbol, her looking at it, and have Bruce still looking for her out there. And even the way how, like, Max Schreck died, and the Penguin died in here. I just really like how the movie does eventually end and tee off in here. I like that. This movie, in general, is just a really good, well-made movie, and that's something I gotta say to it. I'm gonna get on to how I feel about it as a Batman movie, but as just a movie in general, as a Tim Burton movie, I should say, as a Tim Burton movie, this works really well, and it is a really, honestly, almost perfection Tim Burton movie. Like, Tim Burton just nailed it out of the park as his own movie in this. Well, that is pretty much it for all my positives of this movie. I do have more positives than what I thought I would have had, to be honest with you, than going back, because I haven't watched this movie in a while, but I do have a lot more positives than I did negatives than I thought I did. But that being said, I do have a lot of negatives on this movie, so let's get on to my negatives on this movie. Right off the bat, I know this is going to be a very controversial take. I get it, I know. But I am just not a fan of Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I think he's a good casting. I think when you think about, oh, Danny DeVito being cast as the Penguin, that's a good, cast. You think it would be. The interpretation that Tim Burton gives Penguin Oswald Cobblepot in here, I am just not a fan of. See, I'm a fan of the gangster mafia type of Penguin, the kingpin type of Penguin. That's kind of Oswald Cobblepot Penguin that I like and that I would want to see in live action. And this is not it at all. This is a very much of a Tim Burton Penguin creature type of thing. Like, it's a very much from the mind of Tim Burton. Yeah, he resembles maybe of what you would think of a live-action Penguin would be, as like a very fantastical type of look of him, but it just, to me, I just am not a fan of the interpretation, how he acts, how he sounds, how he's a very overall, like, very weird sexual type of predator type of dude, and that he is not even, there's not even really, like, a plan to what he wants to do, because he ends up finding out who his parents is, and then once he finds out who his parents is, he's off doing some, like, plans or whatever, but we never know what his plans is, and he gets talked into being mayor by Max Schreck. So I just, like, all of that just doesn't make sense to me, and it's just everything around the Penguin in here, I'm not a fan of, and I know this is a big controversial take, because everyone loves Danny DeVito's Penguin, but I'm just not a fan as a comic book Penguin lover. I don't like this Penguin. I'm just not a fan of it. He is not Penguin to me. He's just a Tim Burton, Danny DeVito creature. That's really all he is. He's not the Penguin. He's not Oswald Cobblepot. He is not anything like that at all to me. I'm just not that much of a fan of him. What else, too, that I am not a fan of? Now, I am a big fan of Michelle Pfeiffer and her performance in the role, and just the overall vibe and tone and look of her as Catwoman and Selina Kyle. I love all that. But my problem with her is, and where I get into my issues with it, is not nothing with Michelle Pfeiffer's fault. It's just the story around her again. I don't like the way how she is able to become Catwoman, how she falls off a building, balcony, and then cats come and bring her a life, and then now she has 9 lives like cats, and she's alive, and she completely just changes as a person, and it just, to me, none of that works at all, and all that is just, like, really absurd and way too out there, way too fanciful, way too just, whoa, like, what the heck is going on here? That is not Catwoman. And I just don't like that overall take that they do on Catwoman on here. It's just, I'm not a fan of that at all. It just is not how I look at Catwoman. It's not how I would have done Catwoman. Something that is very prevalent in this movie that I don't like at all in this movie is that you can tell, in going with Penguin and Catwoman and a lot of other things in here, is that Tim Burton is not a comic book fan. Tim Burton has never probably read a Batman comic book in his life. He's probably just looked at some pictures of comic book art of these characters, like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to interpret what I think of this art as this character and do that. And that's pretty much what he did with these characters. They are nothing like the comic books. They are nothing how the comic book characters are or act. But surprisingly, he was able to get Batman right, because I feel like what he did as Batman was great. Everything about Batman was pretty much great in here. But everything else surrounding Batman, it's just kind of weird, and it just doesn't really fit, I feel like, in the Batman world. And something to do with Bruce Wayne, like, Bruce Wayne is hardly in this movie, and I've noticed it's very noticeable that Bruce Wayne comes in at the very beginning, and he is starting to be a little bit more of a business guy, Bruce Wayne, but again, I just don't see Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. And this movie doesn't even more for me where you don't see him as Bruce Wayne, because to be honest, you only see him as Bruce Wayne for like 5 minutes in this entire movie. He's hardly Bruce Wayne in this movie at all. I don't like what the overall take on Bruce Wayne in this whole Tim Burton series and stuff with Michael Keaton and stuff. I just don't like his Bruce Wayne, but I do love his Batman. I just don't like his Bruce Wayne. There's little technical errors too in this movie that I don't like with the whole makeup stuff. I know it's been talked about forever, but that whole scene with the makeup, how he has makeup on for 1 second, then he takes his mask off and the makeup's completely gone. It's like, what the heck? And there's a little bit more, technical errors in this, movie that I don't really like. One last thing that's very noticeable in this movie, and that does bring this movie down a lot for me, and that does make me not like this movie as much, and it's not as much of a rewatchable movie for me, personally at least, is because that it just, at the end of the day, feels more like a Tim Burton movie than it does a Batman movie. It feels like just a Tim Burton movie, all in all, and Batman is just there. And he doesn't understand the characters at all. He's never read any of these characters. He doesn't know how these characters really interact, but somehow he made it work in some way with the whole Michelle Pfeiffer performing as Catwoman and Selena Kyle and Michael Keaton performing as Batman in here. Like, they do a good job at all that, but you could just tell at the end of the day, this is a Tim Burton movie, not a Batman movie. And as a Batman fan, that does kind of bring the movie down for me. So guys, my basic overall thoughts for Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton, is that Batman Returns, at the end of the day, is a good Tim Burton movie, but a very bad Batman movie, and in doing so, does bring the movie down a little bit for me, but it does have good things going for it. I do still like Michael Keaton as Batman. I still love Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and Selena Kyle. I love the overall gothic type of dark, Christmassy tone and feeling this movie gives off. Again, I love how Gotham is a character in this overall movie, and I love the final act of this movie too. I think the final act of this movie is done really well. But this movie does differ in having really bad Penguin in here. I am not a fan of Danny DeVito's Penguin at all. His overall interpretation and performance and everything of him as Penguin, I am just not a fan of at all. And this movie, too, at the end of the day, just isn't really a Batman movie. It's just a Tim Burton movie. And I'm just, the over goes again with the feeling of Penguin and the feeling of Catwoman and the feeling of Bruce Wayne even. It just does not feel like a Batman movie. It feels like a Tim Burton movie. And in doing so, it does bring the movie down a little bit for me, even though I do have some things that I do like a lot in this movie. At the end of the day, my overall scoring for Batman Returns is a solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, guys, a 7 out of 10. I think that is pretty much the same as Batman 1989. I think so, and it's funny because before I used to put Batman 1989 way much more up, but on this rewatch, it's weird. They end up being, like, kind of neck to neck to me because I like them both for different reasons, and it's kind of like the same even reasons of why I like them and don't like them, you know what I mean? So it's weird, they're like right there with me, but for different reasons. So guys, now that we just finished off with the Tim Burton Batman Returns, we are going next into, which is still in the same kind of continuance, in the same kind of, you know, like timeline as this, but directed by somebody else, Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever, starring Val Kilmer as Batman. So guys, we're going to be doing Batman Forever next. That's right next on the list. We are rolling through these Batman reviews, guys. I am so excited. I really love rewatching these Batman reviews, guys. So guys, let me know down in the comment section below, and let me know your thoughts on Batman Returns, guys. I always love to know your thoughts. Do you agree with me on this? Did you like Batman Returns? Did you not like Batman Returns? Let me know down in the comment section below. As always, guys, if you like this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to my channel because it helps out a lot when you guys do those two things. It really does help the algorithm. It helps my channel get out there a lot and get more views and stuff like that because, you know, views are all that matter. Thank you guys again for always supporting me all the time. I always appreciate it all the time. And of course, guys, until next time, stay tuned for Batman Forever coming up next, guys. We'll see you later.